It's late, later than you planned to be awake. And if this is you, you already know why you're still here. Because the room gets louder at night, the silence especially. Maybe this hits closer than you expected. Maybe you told yourself you were done thinking about her, that you'd moved on, that whatever happened happened. But then something small happens. A song you didn't choose comes on. Your phone lights up, not her, and somehow that makes it worse. You catch yourself remembering a detail that shouldn't still matter. The way she used to go quiet when she didn't know how to explain what she was feeling. The way she'd look at you when you didn't chase, when you just stayed steady. And you hate that you noticed that. You hate that it still lives in you. If this is you, you're not sitting here hoping she comes back, not consciously. You're just wondering why certain memories won't loosen their grip, why her name doesn't sting the way it used to, but also doesn't disappear. You don't talk about the regret part, the part where you ask yourself late at night if you gave too much or not enough, if you stayed too calm or too distant, or if your silence did more damage than any argument ever could. You replay moments you didn't realize were moments at the time. The last normal day, the last laugh that felt easy, the last time she looked at you like she felt safe, even if she never said it out loud. And what messes with you most is that life hasn't rewarded her the way she thought it would. You don't stalk, you don't dig, but information finds its way to you anyway. A mutual friend mentions something casually, a picture shows up when you weren't looking for it, and you notice the difference. The smile looks practiced now. The excitement feels loud instead of real. She's busy, always busy, as if motion can replace meaning. You tell yourself it's none of your business, and you mean it most days. But some nights, like this one, you feel it. That quiet shift, that subtle weight in your chest that isn't pain anymore, it's recognition. You were rare in ways she didn't understand while she had you. Not because you were perfect, you weren't. You had your flaws, your blind spots, your moments where you didn't say what you should have said. But you were consistent. You didn't perform love. You lived it quietly. You showed up without keeping score. You didn't need to be chased to stay. And life has a strange way of teaching lessons late, not with words, with contrast, with the realization that chaos feels exciting at first until you're exhausted, until peace becomes something you miss, until you realize the calm you walked away from was actually strength. If this is you, you've felt that strange calm lately. Not happiness, not sadness, stillness. You're not waiting. You're not hoping. You're just standing where you are, becoming harder to replace by accident. And somewhere, whether you know it or not, that absence is being felt. So here's the question you probably haven't let yourself ask yet. What happens when someone finally understands your value, only after life removes you from reach? Let me say this without drama. Most men misunderstand this situation because they think it's about dive her feelings. It's not. It's about contrast. I've seen this play out more times than I can count. Not in movies. In kitchens at midnight. In cars parked with the engine off because going inside feels heavier than sitting still. You think if she comes back, it means you finally won, or if she doesn't, it means you weren't enough. Both ideas miss the point. Here's what actually happens. When you were with her, life felt quieter. Not boring, just steady. The kind of quiet you don't appreciate until it's gone. You were the guy who didn't flinch when things got uncomfortable. You didn't need to argue every point. You didn't disappear when she had a bad day. You stayed, not loudly. Just there. And at the time, that didn't feel rare to her. It felt normal, almost invisible, because calm doesn't announce itself. Chaos does. So she left thinking life would feel more emotion, more excitement, more proof that she was desired. And at first, it probably did. Late nights, fast conversations, that restless energy that feels like passion when you're not used to peace. But life doesn't stay in that phase. Eventually, the noise starts to grind. The small cracks show up. The promises don't land the same way. The attention feels conditional. And this is where men get confused. They think she's comparing men. She's not. She's comparing as nervous systems. She's noticing how often she feels on edge now, how she has to explain herself more, how being seen comes with pressure instead of relief. Then something small happens. She drops her keys, burns dinner, has a rough day at work, and for half a second, just a flash, her body remembers what it felt like to be around someone who didn't make everything harder. Someone who didn't need to be impressed. Someone who didn't turn every emotion into a negotiation. That's when the thought shows up. Not romantic, not dramatic, just quiet. He was different. Here's the first principle most men resist. Your value isn't proven by how much you're missed. It's proven by how much peace disappears when you're gone. You didn't create addiction. You created stability. And stability isn't appreciated until life removes it. The second thing men misunderstand is timing. They think if she comes back, it's because they waited long enough, or stayed silent long enough, or played it right. No. She comes back emotionally or literally. When life teaches the lesson you couldn't explain without losing your dignity. You couldn't sit her down and say, "One day you'll realize I was rare." That never works. Life has to show her, through contrast, through fatigue, through the slow understanding that calm isn't empty, it's earned. And listen carefully here. If you did your work during the silence, if you didn't rot, if you didn't beg, if you didn't turn bitter, then you didn't just stay rare. You became harder to access. That's the part nobody tells you. The version of you she remembers exists, but the version of you now doesn't need a recognition to stand tall. You don't move the same way anymore. You pause before reacting. You don't explain yourself twice. You don't chase closure. Not because you're cold, but because you're rooted. And when she feels that distance, that quiet, grounded distance, it doesn't pull her closer with force. It unsettles her because rarity isn't loud. It doesn't beg to be chosen. It simply exists and lets life do the comparing. So if you're sitting there wondering what this all means, whether she'll come back, whether it matters if she does, ask yourself this instead. If life finally showed her your value, would she even recognize the man you've become now? The room is quiet in that specific way it only gets late at night. Not peaceful, just empty. The clock clicks once every second, too loud. The air feels cooler than it should. Your shoulders tense even though you're sitting still. You weren't thinking about her. Not really. Then the memory just arrives. Not a big one. Something stupid. The way she used to leave one light on in the hallway because she hated walking through the dark. The way she'd pretend not to care when you noticed, but she always slowed down until you caught up. You swallow. Shift in your chair. You tell yourself that was a long time ago, that people move on, that you have. But your body doesn't listen to logic. It remembers before your mind can stop it. Somewhere else, another room, another night, she's sitting on the edge of a bed that doesn't feel like home. The sheets are too cold or too warm. Something's off. She checks her phone without knowing why. No notification, just habit. She exhales, sharp, frustrated. The day didn't go the way she thought it would. Again, everyone talked. Nobody listened. She laughed at the right moments, said the right things. Still felt invisible. She tells herself this is better, that she wanted more. That stability felt like settling. But her chest feels tight now, and she doesn't know why. You remember the last time she looked at you before everything broke. Not during the argument. After, when the noise had passed, when the truth sat between you, untouched. You almost said something, almost reached for her hand. You didn't. That moment comes back more often than you admit, because it was quiet, and quiet moments don't defend themselves. She stands up and walks into the kitchen. The fridge hums. The light is harsh. She stares inside like answers might be hiding behind leftovers and half-empty bottles. Nothing. She leans against the counter, rubs her eyes, and for a second, just a second, she misses how things used to feel easier, how she didn't have to perform, how silence didn't mean distance. She shakes her head, annoyed at herself. "Stop," she mutters, as if feelings listen to commands. You're lying in bed now, one arm over your eyes. The ceiling fan spins too slow, or too fast. You don't know. You're not really watching it. You think about how you used to absorb things, her moods, her stress, the weight she didn't know how to put down. You never told her how tired you got sometimes. Not because you were afraid, because it didn't feel necessary. You thought love was something you carried quietly. She scrolls through photos she swore she deleted, not looking for you, just scrolling. A laugh escapes her nose before she can stop it. It surprises her, makes her feel stupid. She remembers the way you listened, not waiting to talk, actually listening. The way you didn't rush her emotions, didn't fix, didn't panic. She didn't call that strength back then. She called it boring, predictable. Now her heart beats faster for no reason. Her jaw tightens. She realizes she's tired, not sleepy, tired in her bones. You turn onto your side, your phone is face down. Has been for hours, you don't check it. Not because you're disciplined, because you don't need to. That stillness surprises you sometimes. You didn't become harder. You became calmer, and calm doesn't scream to be chosen. She sits back down. The room feels too big. Or maybe she feels smaller. She thinks about reaching out, then thinks about what she'd even say. Hey, stranger, no, I was just thinking about you. Too much. The truth is quieter than that. Life feels louder without you. She doesn't send anything. You both sit there, separate rooms, separate lives, connected by a realization neither of you planned. Life is teaching her something now, not through pain, through absence, through the missing weight of someone who made things feel grounded without asking for credit. And you're not waiting. You're just living in the space you built when you stopped explaining yourself. The night stretches on, and somewhere between memory and now, between regret and growth, one question hangs unanswered, uncomfortable, real. When someone finally understands what you were, are they meeting the same man, or only the echo of who you used to be? There are a few beliefs men carry quietly in situations like this. They don't shout. They don't feel dramatic. They just sit there in the background, steering decisions without being questioned. And that's why they do damage. The first one sounds harmless. If she comes back, it means I mattered. I get why that belief feels comforting. When someone leaves, your mind wants proof that you weren't disposable, that what you gave wasn't invisible. So you wait, even if you tell yourself you're not. You keep one emotional door unlocked. You measure your worth against whether she circles back. But here's the part nobody says gently enough. Her return doesn't validate you, and her absence never invalidated you. What made you rare wasn't the outcome, it was who you were when no one was watching. I've seen men lose years here. Good men, quiet men, men who mistook patience for growth. They stayed available instead of becoming grounded. They stayed emotionally parked instead of moving forward. And slowly something faded. She didn't ghost you. You disappeared from yourself. Not because you were weak, but because you outsourced your sense of value to a future moment that might never arrive. Life doesn't reward waiting. It rewards presence. The second belief is sneakier. If I had explained myself better, she would have understood us. This one hurts because it feels logical. You replay conversations, rewrite sentences in your head. Imagine the perfect, calm explanation that finally makes everything click. But understanding doesn't come from better words. It comes from lived contrast. You could have explained your steadiness 100 different ways. It wouldn't have landed while she still had access to it. I remember a guy, solid, thoughtful, always measured. His girlfriend used to say he was too calm, too predictable. He tried to explain that calm was a choice, that it took work. She nodded. She still left. Months later, she called him crying about how chaotic everything felt now, how exhausted she was, how she missed feeling safe. Nothing he explained mattered. What mattered was what was gone. Attention is cheap. Respect is priceless. You don't earn respect by persuading someone to see your worth. You earn it by standing in it, even when it costs you connection. The third belief might be the most dangerous. If she comes back, things can pick up where they left off, boss. This belief keeps men emotionally frozen in time, still reacting like the version of themselves who got left. But listen carefully. If you did this right, if you actually grew, there is no where you left off. You don't think the same way anymore. You don't tolerate the same things. You don't explain yourself twice. You don't chase clarity. And that's not bitterness. That's evolution. I've watched men sabotage themselves by shrinking back into old patterns the moment a familiar face reappears. They softened their boundaries. They rushed intimacy. They abandoned the calm strength that made them rare in the first place. You don't lose her. You lose your own presence. And presence isn't something you negotiate back once it's gone. Here's the quiet truth underneath all of this. Life isn't showing her you were rare so you can feel chosen again. It's showing you that your value was never dependent on her recognition. If she feels the contrast now, that's life doing its work. Not you waiting correctly. Not you suffering long enough. Your job was never to be remembered. It was to remain intact. So if you're waking up slowly to this, if something here feels uncomfortable but steady, good. That's not loss. That's you coming back to yourself. This is what he understands, and it's simple in a way that's hard to accept. Most men think being rare means being impressive, being louder, more confident, more unforgettable. The 1% headman knows rarity usually looks like the opposite. It looks like a man who doesn't rush to fill silence, who doesn't panic when energy shifts, who doesn't confuse intensity with connection. When she left, most men would have tried to fix the feeling, explain, clarify, prove. This is how he leads with presence, not pressure. He lets the moment be what it is, even when it costs him comfort. He doesn't chase reassurance. He checks himself instead. There's a moment most people miss, right after the breakup, right after the unanswered message, right after the urge to say something just so the tension breaks. That's where most men lose their center. The headman pauses there, not because he's playing a game, because he understands something deeper. If your nervous system is calm, you don't borrow certainty from someone else. He still feels it, the tight chest, the quiet questions, the memory that shows up when he didn't invite it. But he doesn't let emotion hijack direction. This is what he understands. Emotion is information, not instruction. So instead of reacting, he returns to rhythm, gym at the same time, work done clean, not rushed, sleep protected, phone face down more often than not. Small things, unimpressive things. That's where his strength rebuilds. When life starts showing her the contrast, the noise, the instability, the emotional whiplash, he's not watching, he's not tracking. Not because he's healed perfectly, but because his attention is anchored. This is how he leads with presence, not pressure. When a mutual friend mentions her name casually, he doesn't lean in, doesn't ask follow-up questions, doesn't pretend he doesn't care either. He nods, changes the subject, keeps his breath steady. That moment matters because presence isn't about being cold. It's about being unmoved by what doesn't require movement. Most men think if she comes back, that's the win. The headman sees it differently. If she comes back because life showed her what calm felt like, he doesn't rush to receive her. He checks alignment first. Does she speak slower now? Does she listen without filling gaps? Does she respect his pace or try to pull him back into urgency? These details tell him everything. This is what he understands. Anyone can miss you when they're tired. Not everyone can meet you where you stand now. So he doesn't reopen doors just because they knock. He doesn't punish either. No speeches, no power plays, just clarity. I'm not the same man you left. He doesn't say it dramatically. He lives it quietly. There's a moment where most men panic again, when silence stretches, when weeks pass, when nothing happens. The headman doesn't fill that space. He lets life continue shaping him. That's why he becomes rare without trying to be. Because while others are chasing reactions, he's building a system he can stand inside. Calm mornings, clear standards, energy spent where it compounds. This is how he chooses strength over noise. He doesn't explain his worth. He doesn't hint at it. He doesn't wait for it to be recognized. He understands something most men overlook. If someone has to lose you to understand you were rare, they don't automatically get access again, not out of ego, out of self-respect. And if she never comes back, he still wins. Because the stillness he built, the presence he learned to carry, was never about being chosen. It was about becoming unshakable. The sink is still dripping. You told yourself you'd fix it tomorrow. Tomorrow keeps showing up. The room smells like soap and cold air. Your phone is on the table, face down. That matters more than it should. A flash hits you, her voice saying your name the old way, soft, like she needed something. Another flash, you apologizing for things you didn't fully understand. Just to keep the peace. You swallow. There was a time you would have reached for the phone already. Typed something half honest. Something that bent you smaller. Your chest tightens, then loosens. You remember standing in a doorway once, watching her pack, pretending you were fine. You weren't fine. You were disappearing politely. The drip stops. Silence rushes in. You sit down, elbows on knees, hands empty. A thought drifts through, quiet as breath. I don't have to earn calm anymore. It almost feels whispered, like it might break if you say it louder. Then another thought lands heavy, clean, final. You didn't lose her. You lost yourself trying to be enough for someone who couldn't feel steady. That realization drops like weight hitting the floor. Your shoulders settle, your jaw unclenches. You don't feel powerful. You feel intact. And for the first time in a long while, you don't reach outward, you stay. So if she feels it now, the contrast, the quiet, the weight of what's missing, that isn't fate pulling her back. That's life finally slowing down enough to tell the truth. You were never loud, never dramatic. You didn't beg to be understood. You were steady when steadiness looked boring. Calm when calm went unnoticed. Rare in a way that only absence can explain. And here's the part that matters now. You didn't stay behind when she left. You stayed with yourself. So if she comes back, she isn't meeting the man she walked away from. She's meeting the silence that learned it didn't need her to stand tall.